Next in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz. The date, and this is an important date, August 12th, 2015. And bailouts? What bailouts? No bailout for you. That is, if you're Greece. And what's going on with gold? Why should it be going up now? Why shouldn't it have been going up for years? Well, the person with all the answers, you know him well from milesfranklin.com. I'm talking about none other than Andrew Hoffman.
Yes. And of course, the biggest announcement, or I should say announcements of our financial lifetimes, the last 2 nights when China devalued the yuan, not once, but twice. And again, I'm going to take a little kudos here. Back in April, I wrote an article predicting, because of the collapsing Chinese exports, that they would do this. And better than that, on Monday, when I saw this weekend's export data, my article was called "The Upcoming Cataclysmic Financial Big Bang to End All Big Bangs," where I said it's imminent. And sure enough, on Monday night, they did it. Monday night, they said it would be one time. I did an audio blog yesterday, and I said, not a chance. This is going to go on much longer. And sure enough, Tuesday night, they did it again. Better yet, on Tuesday night, they said that this is the last time.
Yeah.
Right. But again, this is, as I wrote about the final currency war 2.5 years ago, and I said when China enters it, it's going to go nuclear. This is the end. There's a reason why, my audio blog yesterday was called "The End Game Begins as China Devalues the Yuan," and why last week my audio blog was called "Has the Big One Commenced?" You bet it has, unequivocally, in all ways, shapes, and forms. The collapse of currencies that has been historic and commodities and going on for the past year is about to go exponential, and there's no turning back. We're going to see QE4. We're going to see the ECB do, I don't know, can you go even worse than negative interest rates? We're going to see Japan implode and have hyperinflation. And of course, China is going to be the biggest bubble bursting of all time.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about it for years that the peg was going to get busted. This is just a nice way of saying, oh, we're going to keep the peg, but we'll just keep devaluing till it gets to the point where we like it and exports go up.
But they won't go up. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I know.
The economics. They've more than doubled the money supply just in the past 2 years, more. And that's not including what they've done before. And now their trade deficit is at, I think, an all-time high. It doesn't improve anything. All it does is make things worse. It sounds good politically, which is why all the nations do it, which is why the White House is saying, please, 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 the strong dollar is hurting us. But all it does, as we have learned in all these years by printing all this money, is make everything dramatically worse.
And that's why this is What's Imploding Wednesdays with Andrew Hoffman, because it's all imploding now. How long will they be able to keep it together? Good question. But we've been talking about this, Andy, literally for years, that this was going to happen. Now it's finally happened. Gold decided to go up a little. I'm not convinced that this is the big run up, but the fact is it went up more than the magic cap.
Yeah, but ask me how Miles Franklin's business is doing. We sell physical gold and silver, right?
How is Miles Franklin's business doing?
We were pretty much, following last month's silver shutdown at the U.S. Mint. I spoke to, our president, Andy Schectman, on Monday night. On Monday, I should say, before the devaluation. And he said, we're pretty much out of silver inventory. All we got left is some 100-ounce bars, some miscellaneous stuff. $100,000 could take out all of our inventory. I'm sure it's all gone by now, judging by how business has been in the past 2 days. So now you're back ordering in a big way. He said, we can't even get junk silver. That's why premiums are surging. I call it the ultimate fear asset. I've said for years, you must own it. And sure enough, it went from being junk to being the most valuable silver asset out there because everyone's fearful.
Yeah.
And, you want to order anything now, you're going to be waiting. And you may be paying a lot more as the longer you wait. So, it rings a lot like 2008 starting to form right now, where we ran out of silver worldwide and then gold shortly thereafter.
Yeah, well, it's just obvious, but like I say, they might have one good shot left in them to suppress prices, bring them down again. But I think that we're getting near the end, like you said, and at the end they lose all control.
Okay, and I agree that they'll try. I mean, they're trying today. I mean, they're just nonstop, trying to suppress and to keep the Dow up and all that stuff. But what shot would that be? They've shot everything. There's a reason why I called And I didn't just say the financial Big Bang 10, all Big Bangs about the Chinese devaluation that was coming up. I didn't just say that Monday. I've been calling it that
years.
for months.
Oh, years.
Because once China enters, there's no going back. There's no pretending the economy. I mean, I saw Bill Dudley, the guy who was the New York Fed head and used to be in Goldman Sachs. Right. He did a speech this morning. While interest rates are plunging, the 10 years about to go under 208, and I think there's a 10-year Treasury yield at in 2 hours. And wait do you see the demand for that one? Because everyone knows that QE4 is coming. And in his speech, he said something like, "We hope to raise rates in the future," meaning we pretty much have given up, and especially with commodities falling and all of our economic data is plunging. The worldwide stock markets are plunging. You mentioned the Greece bailout is about, they just pretty much said today it's going to fall apart. As I said it would when they said, oh, we're going to do a $95 billion bailout. I said, not a chance. It's going to have to be much more. And sure enough, that's where we stand. So I don't even think they'll ever get a bailout done. I think Europe is going to fall apart. But anyway, once China enters, that's it. What are they going to do? Say that the jobs report got higher or something? It's all over. Everyone around the world is going to be devaluing like crazy right now. And I honestly can't even think of the kind of news that they could think of to try to reverse this. And if you look at what's going on now, stocks are falling apart. The big stocks, the Apples of the world, all those kind of things that were the leaders are starting to fall apart. And again, they'll try. I agree with you 100%. But it's really, really hard once the Big Bang has been shot off to get any leverage in the field of manipulating markets.
Oh, you're 100% right. We've been talking about all this stuff, Andy, not for months, for years already. And it's just how the dominoes fall, but the dominoes are falling. And if you don't want to be crushed by these dominoes, you got very little time. I mean, look, Jeff Berwick, what you want, he's talking about the Shemitah, but I don't necessarily buy into that, but I do buy into the 7-year cycle. Been 7 years since the last crash, and you know that these things go in cycles, and we're due for it because the behavior, the actions of central banks, the drunkenness of political leaders. I mean, I hope they're on drugs because I'd hate to think they could be doing what they're doing straight.
No, they're all brainwashed. I mean, they're brainwashed by power. It's that simple. I mean, the best example of all of them is Alan Greenspan, who's famous for being the ultimate gold bug and sold his soul for power. And for many years, he seemed to believe his own BS, including, he was the original, we have a market crash in 1987. Remember, that's when he became the Fed chairman. Right. And then, of course, after 2000, lower rates and all that stuff. And luckily for him, the credit bubble was young enough. He didn't have to do QE. He just had to lower rates to zero a couple of times and initiate the plunge protection team. But, now that he's gone from office and, partly he's just trying to distance himself from it, but partly it's kind of like in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom when they burned him on the arm to get that poison out of his head that was brainwashing him. He's finally like, oh my God, I get it again. I remember my roots that I was right. Which of course the people in power, be they corporate titans or politicians or certainly central bankers, they got to fight for their jobs and their reputation. So they'll just keep doubling down. I mean, that's the whole point of a Ponzi scheme. You have to keep doubling down. You can't stop. I mean, if
stop?
Bill Dudley came out today and said, you know what, we're just going to have to give in to reality. End of it. No more speech. I mean, the market, the Dow would fall 3,000 points in the next 5 minutes. He has to make people believe that the Fed is going to double down. And hopefully it gets to the point where people are no longer going to believe that, Fed money printing is going to, or any of these guys money printing is going to revive the economy. They're just hoping for hyperinflation. I mean, it's that bad. When they see stocks go down enough, they don't even care if their cost of living explodes, as long as please get that stock market back up, or please get housing prices up, or if you're an oil, company, please get oil prices back up. But even if they were able to do that, it's going to be only in nominal terms, and that's what people are learning painfully in a lot of places right now. In Venezuela is the poster child of an actual 2015 hyperinflation. But after this Chinese announcement, it's going to be a lot of places very quickly. Some of them because of front running. Everyone's going to say, well, who's going to do it next? Some of them because because the politicians immediately are going to take action. And, in the last, as I've said all along, the top of the totem pole is reserve currency. And, they'll hold out as long as they can. But with, markets moving like this, commodities and stocks, and of course, now treasury yields plunging because everyone knows it's coming. It's only a matter of time before QE4 comes. And, I got my article title for that day. It's already the day they announce it. Ding dong, the Fed is dead. I mean, it's coming. And when it does, you better have your gold and silver already, which may already be too late.
Yeah. We knew. How many times have we said they can never raise interest rates? They'll always find a reason not to. Schiff has been saying it for years.
So is Hoffman.
Here we are. And us, you and me on this show, and you before I even had you on the show, been saying this. And now, they're all saying, no, they're going to raise rates. They're going to raise rates, blah, blah, blah. And you just know it's a bunch of bull. It's talking the markets, trying to, play their book, whatever. But as well as I know, it was a pure fantasy because... And
again, my audio blog last week was called, "Oh no, the Fed's going to raise rates and crush gold," because it's just more propaganda. It's nothing. Rates and gold have nothing to do with each other. On top of that, that's what a Ponzi scheme is. This Ponzi scheme, you have to not only take rates to zero, but when they get to zero, you have to take them lower because it doesn't work. And when they go lower, you got to take them lower because it's the only way, as I said, to prevent all-out collapse of the bubbles that have been created instantaneously. And that's why, of course, we're going to have an official negative interest rate, and why I'm screaming again, take your money out of the frickin' banks, which can go bankrupt and hyperinflate and do negative interest rates, and put it in frickin' gold and silver, which are trading below the cost of reduction. I'm telling you, working for one of the oldest, largest, most reputable bullion dealers in the country, I'm telling you, we have no silver inventory on hand. I'm telling you, if you don't order it now, you're not even going to be able to get in line for it. And I'm also telling you, by the way, that we do still have gold inventory. So just do it before what are you waiting for? Do people not understand what it means when China is depegging? China, the currency manipulators of the world, according to us, we are going to retaliate with our own devaluation. We are going to destroy the currency until it's worthless, just like everyone else will do.
Well, what choice is there? If they were to stop today and get sane all of a sudden, what do you think they would do, Andy?
Well, that's what I said. If they stop today, the Dow would fall 3,000 points today, and then we'd just get started, and gold would go up even higher. Because again, there's no sanity. Either you burst the bubble through hyperinflation or you burst it through a 2008 style crash. Either way, it's going to cause hyperinflationary monetary policy because they have to pay off their debts. Remember, we have 18 trillion of debt that we say we have. Of course, we have 5 trillion off balance sheet. Remember, we've been in this debt ceiling suspension for 6 months. So as soon as they, end that suspension, that'll add another trillion. Then we got 200, 300 trillion of off balance sheet liabilities. And we're doing so with record low interest rates. So if interest rates even creep up the tiniest bit, each 1% just on the 18 trillion is $180 billion of debt service costs that we don't have. And in a collapsing economy with no tax revenue, et cetera, it's a vicious loop. All they can do is try to keep things from collapsing now, as opposed to a little later. And hopefully in their case, a lot later. So a lot, like a year later, so that they can get out of office. I mean, I could just imagine what's going on in Janet Yellen's mind. I wonder if it ever crossed Bren Bernanke's mind when he was in the middle of some of his crises in like 2011, et cetera, and 2008. Am I going to get out of this, on my watch? Is it going to happen? Because Janet Yellen, I don't care how brainwashed she is, how academic, she's got to be terrified because it's really looking like, and maybe even the Shemitah's telling us that if it's true, that it's going to happen on her watch. Quite ironic, being that she's the first female Fed chairman, wow. So it's not going to help the female cause.
Our buddy Daryl there said she was like Mary Barra at GM. You put the female in there, and then everything blows up.
Yeah, maybe that's why they did it, so they can blame it on a girl.
Yeah. I mean, anything.
Of course, I mean, I'm joking. I mean, here it has nothing to do with any one person. I mean, you could, as I've said, you could have put Superman or Jesus Christ into the office of Fed chairman. It wouldn't matter. We'd be in the exact same position because they'd have the same choices. I mean, unless you can turn back time, like, well, yeah, maybe Superman could fly around the world a couple of million times and go back to 1971. But I don't think Jesus Christ ever tried to do that. He could walk on water, but he couldn't turn back time.
Yeah, there's just nothing that can be done, because the thing to do would be to take the hits in the markets and probably have some kind of fixed monetary standard and default on all the debt. And we'd have to do that all over the world, and we would have to immediately nationalize virtually every bank on the planet, or certainly the big banks, the too big to fails, because they would be failing right and left. Where that
Right. Let's put the banks in the hand of the government, the people who destroy everything. And by the way, when I've talked about the only person, forget Jesus Christ and Superman. If Ron Paul were president, and he won't be, there's not a chance, but if he were president, right, he wouldn't fix anything. But to me, he would have been our best shot at guiding us through the wreckage. I think he would have been a good diplomat. I think he would have said, look, we screwed up as a nation, and we're here to help and do everything we can to make it best, because I think that would have been the best chance we could have had to avoid war, and maybe even to avoid the worst case hyperinflation. But as it is, everyone else is just the same. It could be Trump, Jeb, Hillary, Obama, if he doesn't get out on his watch. They're all going to do the same thing. They're going to order the Fed to print money. They're going to give speeches where they're saying, we're going to nationalize everything and we want you to be strong, and we're going to be strong, and all it's going to do is make things worse, no matter who it is. And the same goes for the Germans and the Japanese. And I don't even want to talk about the Chinese government is probably the most inept of all of them combined, because not only are they dealing with the same bureaucrats, but they're dealing with communist policies, trying to manage the lives of 1.5 billion people in every imaginable aspect.
Yeah, it's getting interesting, and there's really there's no stopping it now. And all you could do is try not to get run over by it. And as far as survival implements, food, survival protection tools, everything else, if you don't have them now, you should be thinking about it, because I don't know how long chaos is going to break out for, if it breaks out. But the odds of it breaking out now, Andy, are higher than ever.
It's breaking out everywhere. I mean, how much longer is anyone looking at what's going on in Brazil? They downgraded it today to like a notch above junk, and comically, the Moody's said, yeah, but we're giving it a stable rating. I mean, Brazil, their currency is down 50% in the last 12 months. This is one of the vaunted BRICS. Their biggest business is selling oil and iron ore, which are down more than 50%. And they're corrupt. They have their president has a woman, unfortunately. She has an 8% approval rating. They're going to have riots in the streets. This is a big country. Japan, they're rioting in the streets trying to get Shinzo Abe out. And look at what's going on in Turkey, Venezuela, soon to be Greece. I don't even want to ask what happens when this bailout falls apart. Not that the bailout would help anything, but it's going to fall apart. And they're going to be at ground zero while the rest of the world's at ground zero. So, I mean, that default. And again, the default, as we learned last week, although no one's paying attention except for a handful of people like us, they don't owe 350 billion. They owe like 650 billion euros. They'll take down all of Europe. Taking down Europe will take us down too. So again, you're going to see a lot of chaos. And as you said, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And, hopefully America is better off than most places. But remember, our currency is the most overvalued on the planet. It's going to fall the most in terms of purchasing power and standard of living for the average person as this thing unfolds, which hopefully won't be sudden and will be a little more gradual. And, going from a high standard of living to a low standard of living is what causes chaos.
Oh, yeah. And how low is our standard of living going to fall here? And this is the world, but particularly the U.S., how low can we go?
It's will the worst case, scenario be avoided? I was just saying, I thought Ron Paul would have been the best opportunity we would have had to have someone whose sole goal would not be, political gain, but to mitigate the worst case scenario. There's no one else out there who has that power to do that. And, things happen very fast. I mean, look at how fast the price of oil went from $110 to we're about to break under 43. And again, remember, oil is not only the biggest business of America, contrary to what people want to believe about tech and, waiters and bartenders. It's our biggest business as far as high paying jobs and tax revenue. But it's the biggest business in the entire world. And I'll bet you anything that a close second is the other commodities, combined, which are in free fall. And then, per what David Stockman's great defamation and, which has been the basis of my investment theory for the last year, which is why I wrote the direst prediction of all first article this year. we have a historic overcapacity of everything, and not just commodities, infrastructure, government, you name it, everything. There's no hope of any return of profits to these commodity businesses for, I'm going to put a number on it, I'm going to say a decade minimum of any profits. And we're talking about the entire world. That's how bad things are about to get in the biggest business in the entire world at a time when we have more debt than we've ever had before. And record low interest rates, which have nowhere to go but up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And right now, as we speak, the 10-year, the yield is it's starting to scrape 2%. It's 2.089. But obviously, that's going to go way down here. And
it'll go down until the hyperinflation fears come. Oh, yeah. Because right now it's simply they're going to do QE and that's going to keep rates down. But eventually, just like you're seeing stock vigilantes here and, the commodity vigilante, I remember I talked when oil went from 43 up to 63. And copper, this is earlier this year, and copper went from 240 up to 290. And I spent how many weeks talking about the newly formed oil PPT and copper PPT, who were clearly there to try to stop the trends I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. They failed so miserably. I mean, copper is 230 now and oil is 43. The same thing's going to happen with all these other markets, including the big kahuna of the biggest bubble in history, these sovereign debt markets. So right now, the market still believes, yes, the Fed's going to do QE and they're going to keep rates down. Well, good luck to that. Let's see how long they could do that, because it's going to be not long before, as I said before, the hyperinflationary fears are going to dominate everything to the point of people not thinking that QE is going to be a benefit, but a hyperinflationary catalyst.
Yeah, well, we're going to see it really soon, and it ain't going to be pretty. There's nothing that anyone can do to stop it. So let's just buckle our seatbelts, get ready. If you haven't gotten ready yet, well, maybe you have a little time to do it, but always plan for the worst, hope for the best. And I don't think the best is coming anytime soon, but hey, if we don't crash right away, so it's 6 months, whatever it is, but the die is cast, as Andy said. Andy, we will...
That is if the Shemitah doesn't come around in the next, month? And I only say that kiddingly because I don't believe in any of that stuff, other than to say there's a heck of a chance that you don't have the time to wait. You may well be looking at this being the big one, and you got but weeks before it falls apart. Because everyone's brainwashed. Don't worry, they'll come in. The Fed will do their QE, and that'll buy you a couple of more months before. There's no necessarily reason to believe that. Certainly not historically. How about Greece? I just said they're not getting their bailout. I mean, what more do I have to say? Look at the stock of National Bank of Greece. They're not getting a bailout. What's going to happen? I thought that they were saved. I mean, Europe could be falling apart today. I mean, all of this could fall apart. What if the Japanese announced tomorrow, holy cow, we got to retaliate. We're going to do triple Abenomics. What if the Indian rupee hits a new all-time low and the people revolt and sell out every ounce of gold that they could find on the planet, which it very, very well might. I mean, all these things can happen now. So maybe they'll be able to hold it off, but this is a can-kicking exercise. It's really at the end, whether it's whether it's just in principle at the end or literally at the end, I don't know, but it's not years anymore. And the fact that Shemitah is calling for this fall, I'm going, I mean, how could it get past this fall is all I'm saying. So we'll see.
I think it's September 13th. It ends
yes.
on that day. So it's only.
And again, I don't quote believe in that. I'm just saying the timing of it is uncanny because I just can't see these things lasting much longer.
No. And whether it's the Shemitah or something else that does us in, don't worry about it. Just get ready because really something big is going to happen. How it's going to occur, we don't know exactly, but it's going to occur. Anyway, Andy, we got to run. But next week, find Andy's work on milesfranklin.com. If you haven't subscribed to his daily missive, do it now, and his audio blog. And while you're at it, get over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. The news now, more important than ever. Don't get obsessed, but get prepared. Keep your eye on it. And Andy, we will talk to you next week.
Looking forward to it.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.